Hi everyone, let's go over my bullish and bearish Elliott wave scenarios on Bitcoin. And in this video, I have decided to cover the daily 4-hour time frame and the 1-hour time frame bullish and bearish scenarios. So it's a lot of information, but the reason I chose these scenarios is actually because of the news this afternoon, 2:30 p.m. Central European time. We have some high impact news, and likely the volatility that we get is going to impact the scenarios and the probabilities on the daily 4-hour and the 1-hour time frame. So I just want to make sure that you are prepared, you know what we're looking for, you know the probabilities, and you know how probabilities change as well. If we then start with the bullish scenarios and starting on the daily time frame, then on the daily here, the bullish scenario is continuation to the upside, where we're still looking for a wave 5 and new all-time highs. Now, the common target for your wave 4 has been respected. So far, so good. And the invalidation is 77.7K. On the lower time frame, what you're then looking for is a wave 1, 2, and continuation to the upside. So if we then zoom in to this wave 4, we go to the 4-hour time frame, then the bullish scenario is what you see here on my chart. So you have a finished WXY and you want to see continuation to the upside. So in this case, we then look for an impulse to the upside. In a 1, you want to see a 3-wave correction. In 2, and continuation to the upside, taking out 102, taking out 108. Now what is important here is that your wave 2 is a 3-wave corrective structure. It shouldn't be a 5-wave impulsive structure because that's bearish. We'll get to that later. But this wave 2 has to be a 3-wave corrective structure to the downside. Of course, we will analyze and cover that if we get it, but that is just an important detail. And if it is a 3-wave correction, we look for price to continue towards the upside. Now, if we then zoom in to this wave 1, your wave 1 has to be an impulsive structure. And I want to start with the most bullish scenario just for awareness. Now, it's difficult to give this scenario the highest probability because your wave 2 in blue here, so what you're looking at the moment is a 1, 2, 1, 2, and you look for 3 to the upside when the news hits. So that would be the most bullish news scenario where you do not move below 95.3. Now, in this particular scenario, your wave 2, however, retraced to the 0.236 Fibonacci taken from the low to the high of this wave 1. And that is a very rare target for a wave 2, right? And that impacts the probabilities for this scenario. It's not an invalidation though. But another reason why I decided to put it in this video, at least for the sake of awareness, is because price reacted at this wave 4. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And when you look for an impulse, a correction, and later continuation, good targets for your wave 2 are either your wave 4 range or your wave 2 range, right? In this case, price respected the wave 4 range at the moment after a 3-wave structure. So we at least have to be aware of this scenario. Again, it's difficult to give it the highest probabilities due to the 236, but awareness is very, very important, especially if price can pass the daily naked point of control at 98.1K and flip this to support. That is when the probabilities for this scenario, of course, will increase. Now, the other bullish scenario is quite simply a bigger retracement. So you then have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a 5, or 1, 2, 3, 4, and a diagonal in 5. Doesn't really matter because in the end, you're looking for a deeper retracement. Now, the most common target for a wave 2 is the 05786 area, 93.1, 90.8K, around those levels at the moment, of course, in confluence with your wave 2 here. And we also have a support box here in blue, 91.492K. Now the 0.382 here on my chart in orange is a less common target, but a target nonetheless. And this is the scenario where you then want a 3-wave structure to the downside in your wave 2. Now, of course, a flat ABC with C, by the way, being a 5-waver, is a 3-wave structure. But then after this, we want to see multiple 1-2s, bullish CVD divergences, and we look for continuation, right? So by all means, 2 has to be a 3-wave corrective structure. And then we go to the bearish scenarios, right? And after the bearish scenarios, I'll summarize everything. But here, the bearish scenario is a finished 5-wave impulse to the upside, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Probabilities are a bit lower for this scenario because your wave 4 in blue is very short in time compared to your blue wave 2. And most commonly, 4 is longer than 2, or at least quite similar in size, but this wave 4 is significantly shorter, only touching the 0.382 Fib time taken from the start to the end of 2 to the end of 3, comparing 2 with 4. In other words, it lowers the probabilities. Now, if you do go to the 4-hour time frame, then in this bearish scenario, your most bearish count is going to be a multi-1-2. Now, I spoke about this for the first time yesterday during the stream because John in Discord had this scenario on his chart, and I decided to talk about it a little bit during the stream. It's important to be aware of it. 1 and then a 2, 1 and another 2 over here. The reason also, at least why it's good to be aware, right, is because your wave 2s are counted as flats in this scenario. And in a multi 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, it is preferred that your wave 2s have the same structure, which has a possibility here, right? ABC, ABC. Now, it's not the highest probability scenario yet. You need to price to take out the low as a bare minimum and then move very impulsively to the downside on high volume. But again, it's good to be aware of this scenario. If price does take out the low, by the way, 89, then your bullish scenario, is going to change to this, right? So again, just showing this because it's on my chart. We don't know what the volatility is going to do, of course, later this afternoon, because I do expect quite some volatility. That's why I just want to make sure you're prepared for basically whatever the price is showing you. So if you do move to the downside and you take out the low, this is going to be a very important area of support, 85, 81, and actually above this still, you have a area here around 87, right? So in the most bearish scenario, the double 1-2, you need price to really tank to the downside. Support should be peanuts. And in the bullish scenario, you want a 5-wave structure to end, right? Highest amount of volume in your 3, preferably ending with your wave 5, start a bit of a range and then retrace back towards the upside. So it will require patience to see what then plays out. On the 1-hour time frame, your bearish scenario here is actually similar compared to the bullish scenario, because in the bearish scenario, you're also looking for an impulse to the upside. But now this impulse here is then labeled as a wave C, because you're looking for a flat A, B, and then a wave C over here, right? Wave 5 finished. And then you're looking for price to then move impulsively to the downside, right? So not a 3-wave structure, a 5-wave structure. And it's with the probabilities at the moment as well. You can have bullish or bearish probabilities, but the news this afternoon is going to kick ass. The daily naked point of control, 98.1K, is incredibly important. And basically the reaction during that news is going to decide what's going to happen, right? At least the expected volatility. Now, I will be live on YouTube as news hits at 2:30 p.m. Central European time. Then talking about the support resistance areas to the upside, already spoke about it here, 98K to 98.6, a little bit higher here. We have 104, 105, then to the downside around 87, and over here 91.4, 92K. And we do have this volume profile here as well. All right, so we have the volume profile from the very beginning to where we are now. Point of control, 98.5K. Already spoke about the news, but for the sake of repetition here, 2:30 p.m. Central European time, high impact news. The probabilities are high to get some great volatility later today. And now we get to the probabilities, and it's quite a box this time. Boom. So it's quite a lot of text, I suppose. Now on the daily time frame, at the moment, the probabilities remain higher for the blue line compared to red, but we are aware of the bearish scenario because that is important for risk management, for the trades, for the spot, for whatever, right? It's important to be aware of the bearish scenario. If you take out 102, that would be good, right? That is positive because you invalidate the double 1-2 scenario to the downside, which increases the probabilities for price to, at a later stage at least, take out the all-time high. So that would be an important level on the chart. But at the moment, there is not yet a very high volume great move to the downside, right? We got to be aware of this low. If you take out this low, it activates the potential for a double 1-2 and a 3 down, or of course a bigger WXY, take the low again, and then you move towards the upside. That's then going to be the two choices that we have on the lower time frame. So I write here daily bullish at the moment, no reason yet to be overly bearish. As we are we prepared just in case? Yes, preparation is important. Based on the local structures, we will know more and decide on the probabilities. A little detail that I think I have only covered in live streams, but I do want to cover it at least in this video now as well, is that your daily higher degree wave 4 here retraced below the price action of your lower degree 4, which is the white 4. Now having a wick here, right, this wick is no problem, and preferably that is like the end of your wave 4, but generally it's not too awesome to move way below your lower degree wave 4 if you do come back down again. Of course the official invalidation is 77, but you know, it's just the theory, right? Elliott wave theory and me communicating those type of guidelines and information on the 4-hour time frame. So we jump to the 4-hour. On the 4-hour time frame, there we go. The probabilities at the moment would also be a bit higher for the bulls. Now I gotta say, on the 4-hour time frame, the news is going to be, of course, a great catalyst for either the bulls or the bears, but preferably in even the bullish scenario and also the bearish scenario, you actually get a bit of a deeper retracement, either for the bulls in a wave 2, for the bears you look for continuation. So basically in both cases the retracement then matters the most, and the structure of the retracement, corrective or impulsive, is going to decide the probabilities. And that is just because on the 1 hour, having a 1 finish 2, another 1 2 and continuation up is incredibly rare due to the 0.236 touch. Now if price would move to the upside and takes out the high, then the dotted line becomes your new bearish scenario, which then leads to a bigger 3-wave structure, and then you move up. But it is, as you can see, it's still then bullish because you expect continuation afterwards. And then in the 1-hour time frame, so we got to zoom in. Okay, on the 1-hour time frame here, let me put that over there. So of course the probabilities of different time frames kind of like line up, and even though here as well I write bullish bearish, it's the afternoon that's going to decide most. And again, generally we would like to see a bigger retracement, as the 0.236 Fibonacci is very rare for a wave 2. So preferably we follow yellow or red, which red of course is then your bearish scenario, right? And then the structure to the downside is again deciding the probabilities, right? Are you going to follow red with a high impulsive move to the downside, or is it yellow with a 3-wave structure, a couple of 1-2s again, and then you continue to the upside, right? So the word bullish and bearish here, it's taken with a little bit of a grain of salt, as this afternoon and the structures are going to decide a lot, and that's why I want to be live for you guys as well. Now for awareness, by all means, with all these scenarios, please be careful due to the news later. High volatility is expected. Be aware of the daily naked point of control at 98k as important resistance. Pause the resistance, move above it and flip it to support is bullish. Reject there, and we are looking for, well, bullish flat, or at least a retracement in a 2 for the bulls, or for the bears an impulse to the downside. It's all about the structure, right? But this zone where we are now is very important. Personal feeling, I rarely ever add this, but I think today is one of those days. Even though Elliott wave probabilities suggest bullish, right, based on the time frames, I don't enjoy being overly bullish nor bearish. I approach the chart neutral and take it step by step, level by level. I understand the importance of the daily naked point of control above us, in other words, the resistance and the news that is coming up. The news will likely bring a great volatility, and I do not want to get my ass kicked being overly focused on one direction. This makes me take extra care of my positions and play it safe. With new information after the volatility, when the chart cools down again, I will be able to make new informed decisions. So that is everything basically in this video. The most important takeaway of this video is the news this afternoon, 2:30 p.m. Central European Time, expected volatility. The probabilities locally here are higher to see a bigger retracement, because a 236 for the bullish scenario, 1-2 and then 1-2 continuation. The 236 is a very rare target for a wave 2, so therefore your red or yellow line here would be your higher probability, and depending on the structures, we know the probabilities, right? But we got to wait for structures to form. And then what happens on the 1 hour time frame will impact the 4 hour, will impact the daily. And we will see where we are by the end of the day. I hope that this video was helpful or valuable to you. Please check out the CVD indicator video, the best indicator out there in my opinion, or the Elliott Wave educational playlist to help you understand more about Elliott waves. Thanks for watching and subscribing, and I hope to see you at the next one. Bye bye.